Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to VWEC's Expert Series. My name is Breda Genevieve, and I'll be your host for today's presentation. And we will be hearing from 5 experts today, each of whom has successfully presented virtual learning tools to their school's administrators and actually got a yes. And since I've never heard that word personally, I'm excited to hear what each of them has to say. But before we begin, please note that our presentation today will be live streamed and the recording will be uploaded onto YouTube. And I have put a link to our YouTube channel in local chat. So when you check out that YouTube channel, be sure to subscribe to VWEC channel and be notified of all the excellent content that is continually being added. So what we will do is today each of our panelists will speak for a few minutes about their experiences working with their administrators, and then during this time we are going to ask you to please hold your questions. And then when everyone is done, I will open up the floor for the second part of our presentation for Q&A. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce our panel. Today our first speaker will be Meryl McBride, who is Meryl Johnson, Professor of Geography at Colorado State University, Fort Collins, and previously a professor at the University of New Orleans. Much of her career has been spent in academic administration, including department chair, associate dean, acting dean, associate provost, vice president of academic affairs, and a number of acting and interim leadership positions. She was PI for a Louisiana Second Life project involving a consortium of Louisiana universities that was funded through competitive grants. She is a political and economic geographer by training and has published work in a variety of peer-reviewed journals, as well as a book on a geographer's guide to social virtual worlds last June. Please welcome Meryl.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction, Brenda. I want to begin by saying that the bug bit in late 2006. I became totally enthralled by the possibilities of social virtual worlds, not only for me personally, but higher education in general. My new Second Life avatar was crude by today's standards, but provided an entree into an extraordinary electronic geography of sights and sounds that, at least I thought, were full of promise for educational innovation. I became a Second Life missionary on my campus. Not only did I spread the word and recruited colleagues, but I set out to find some support for a campus initiative. This was the golden age for social virtual worlds. Everybody seemed curious about 3D web technology, the so-called Metaverse 1.0, as far as I'm concerned, and wanted at least to try an avatar. I worked with the Louisiana Board of Regents in 2008-9 to secure 2 grants, totaling $242,000, to put together a Louisiana SL consortium. Participants included UNO, Tulane, Loyola, and several other universities in Louisiana. Built and courses were taught by However, it was all mountain excitement. But virtual worlds had become a valley of skepticism. The of the various universities to pay out of general budgets were ignored. Students were more in gaming than in social virtual worlds. The consortium became sort of a virtual ghost town. Defeating such a project seemed almost like multiple virtual worlds. In my experience, suspicion that avatars were silly from the get-go. For example, the university president once chided me about how my doing value proposition that administrators seem always to be looking for, especially technologies that were out there. Zuckerberg and others, we may have a second chance in possible ways of overcoming future administrative obstacles may include, first, find a champion who can cause of education in social virtual worlds. Second, it's helpful if the champion already occupies an administrative position, preferably a administrative position, and persuasive with administrative peers and faculty. So that at UNO, University of New Orleans, I was either in the college dean's office or in academic affairs. Faculty, and then promoting compliance by, for example, in accounts payable, instructional technology, and so forth. The champion to show the advantages of virtual worlds, from building to the types of presence and social interaction possible, opportunities for collaboration. Yes, the champion needs to be a visionary. White Knights early on when promoting, quote, cartoons on computer screens. It isn't that many administrations will not buy an initiative until it shows a profit. In other words, it can be difficult to secure. Administrators prefer this capital come from somewhere else, like the Louisiana Board of Regents, in my case. Proposition is the UNO have had buildings in Second Life, social 800 faculty members and students in a larger group, but failed to develop programs that were of the potential of virtual worlds and of greatest importance. Say, would generate tuition money and research funding that would support virtual world operations and provide value added to the university. This was something that, in hindsight, we've done a much, much better job at achieving. But I promised to talk 5 minutes. My time is up. Having said these things, I truly believe that we will experience an avatar future at some level, more broadly in society and specifically in education. And oh yes, the avatars will have legs. Ooh.
Thank you so much, Meryl. I love the idea of being a missionary too. That's actually a perfect word for that. Thank you so much. And yes, we all need legs. I totally agree with that. So our next speaker today, I'd like to introduce Acuppa, who is John O'Connor. In 2009, Professor O'Connor began teaching an award-winning higher education class in Second Life, and he has taught the module most semesters since then. Teaching in collaboration with colleagues in Dublin and universities in Ohio and Turkey have given participants a unique intercultural experience. John served as a Dean of the College of Arts and Tourism at Technological University Dublin, Ireland from 2012 to 2021 and is currently leading the university's team in developing a European University of Technology with 7 partners across Europe. Please welcome John O'Connor.
Thank you, Brayla. So, I've been teaching a module in Second Life since 2009. I began by applying for a faculty learning technology grant to write the module. And the reason for that approach was to ensure that the module was approved formally by all the various academic and quality assurance committees in the university before we commenced delivery. The grant included sufficient funding to cover Premier membership of Second Life and in-world building costs also. However, the bureaucracy around attempting to claim back my expenses was so hellishly time-wasting that I gave up. At that time, our finance department harked back to the 19th century in its approach, and national procurement regulation designed to ensure transparency and equality of opportunity presents huge problems when it comes to buying online services, and in particular paying invoices generated outside the country. I did a very simple cost-benefit analysis and decided to fund my membership of Second Life personally and use barter wherever possible to cover other expenses. So, for example, I came to an arrangement with Virtual Dublin in Second Life to locate the campus there. They managed our build and hosted us in the sim in exchange for 2 free places on the module each semester. I did have authority, I was ahead of school at that stage, to make this offer. Virtual Dublin could retain any fee it decided to charge or offer the places in return for other services, while successful participants received a certificate of completion from the university. That approach has worked well over the last dozen years, but now that I want to grow TU Dublin's presence in Second Life, it will be necessary to engage with our finance office and work out how to manage paying for a virtual campus directly with university funds. I also avoided IT problems until last year. My initial impetus in designing an online module was to avoid the problem of cancelling classes due to urgent faculty meetings, which sometimes occur at a moment's notice for a head of school. So I offered the module in the evening time from 8 p.m. so that I could teach at home. In any case, my internet connection was more reliable and faster than the university network. Last year, with my new appointment freeing me up from the burden of faculty meetings and moving to a brand new building with a state-of-the-art fit-out, I decided it was time to try on-campus delivery during the normal daytime class schedule. My intention was to resolve any IT issues before encouraging colleagues to consider teaching in Second Life. I contacted the IT department and explained that the module required access to Second Life, which would mean opening certain ports that are normally kept closed for security reasons. I'm certainly not a technician, and I have absolutely no desire to understand how Second Life might be facilitated. So I searched for FAQs about connecting to Second Life and sent them to my IT contact to work through. The solution he proposed was to open the ports 30 minutes before class started and for 30 minutes after it finished. Fortunately, I started this conversation some weeks in advance of the semester commencement date because it took quite a bit of testing to ensure everything worked. For instance, when I was finally able to access Second Life for the first time on campus, I couldn't get voice working, and it took much toing and froing with the technician before he realized voice was carried on a separate port that also needed to be open. So the lesson here is that it takes much more time than you could ever imagine to facilitate a new technical requirement of any sort. Fortunately, I was working with a willing and supportive technician. If he had not been interested in making this work, it may have been a different story. So, what lessons can I share that might help anyone thinking about teaching in Second Life? There are 4 things I strongly recommend considering. Firstly, start building a relationship with your support services in the university, well in advance of doing anything. If you are not in a leadership or managerial role, you may need to reach out to someone who is in such a role, because you are more than likely to need their support in facilitating your requests with the central services. Before engaging with IT, you need to do a certain amount of homework yourself, so that you know the basics of what is needed, even if you don't understand how to do it yourself. The more information you can provide to the technicians, the more willing they will be to help. In other words, make their lives as easy as possible, and they will generally return the favour. Secondly, you need to practice in situ, so that you are sure everything works. But you also need a plan B. For example, during one of my early classes on campus, the university network went down. I was able to switch to using the hotspot on my phone and keep going. That, of course, was when I discovered many of my students were doing the same thing. Thirdly, a useful approach to get permission to try something new, such as this, is to set it up as a pilot project. The temporary nature of pilot can be reassuring for administrators who are usually reticent about the unknown and reluctant to allow a precedent that may be problematic later on. Use whatever mechanisms and opportunities that are available to you. Fourthly, the faculty grant I received was really about shifting the idea from merely being an interest of mine to becoming a recognised, funded university project. Additionally, having support from the Learning Technology Unit, which was seen as a leader of change, gave greater credibility to the project among the administrative side of the university. If you can link your Second Life project to your university strategy, you are more likely to receive support. I'm happy to expand on any of this during the Q&A session later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. And when you talk about technology, that is a huge issue that I don't think we consider quite enough. But even looking at our situation today, where we're having problems with speakers and problems with one of our speakers today has lost power, so you always have to have that plan B. Thank you very much for speaking to us. Our next speaker today is Magua Theriac, who is Murat Gulmez, Associate Professor of Marketing at Çağ University in Turkey. He has been in Second Life since 2006 and began adapting SL to his teaching activities since 2009. He created the virtual campus built for Çağ University in 2019. Since then, he has been cooperating with other international faculty and staff to teach in virtual worlds. They have delivered various courses for Çağ students and in collaboration with other European universities. Thanks to his efforts, hundreds of university students have received credit for their hard work in Second Life. Welcome, Magua, to our panel today.
Hello everyone. Can you all hear me? Okay, great. Thank you for inviting me for the panel tonight, and I would like to share my own experience in Second Life, which started about 2006 with another avatar which I forgot the password and lost totally. But then this is my second avatar, Magua. And my adventure started with an article that I read on a newspaper because it was about kind of about a business newspaper section, and they were telling about the companies are starting to take places in virtual worlds. So I said, what is this virtual world, and what are those companies doing there? So I was kind of curious and logged in to Second Life from my old computer at that time, and then realized here is an interesting place, but I didn't see much opportunities here for anything for business at that time, or anything for teaching, or using it for academic purposes. Then what I did was I just saw one avatar one day that she was in her profile. It was written like this: I was doing my PhD thesis here, so please do not disturb me, other than talking about my thesis. Then I said, okay, it just ring a bell in my mind, and then I said I can use here for writing thesis with my students. And then that is the first thing I did as in Second Life in terms of academic use. So we wrote a thesis about entrepreneurship in Second Life. And then that was years before that I wanted to use this place for my students. I wanted my students to see this world, and I integrated certain assignments regarding the Second Life as an optional assignment to my courses. Until 2019, which I decided to come up, now it's time to carry on a full course here, and I wanted to build the university campus here as a virtual campus. So what I did was I wrote a project, and I asked for funding from my university. The key point there to get that funding or that project approved was timing, in my opinion. If you are, as a faculty in university, if you're looking around and knowing the dynamics that your university is working on with, you have more chance, because the reason is my university was going through an audit at that time by our education council, and they want to show as many projects as possible to them that they're doing, especially the innovative teaching projects. So my project was a perfect match for this description, and it was right on time. That's why it was funded without much questions asked about what is Second Life, what are you going to do there. But it was written there, and then the administrative work was done, and then the management decided to support this campus. So it was right before the pandemic started, and I started to teach my first course here fully on our virtual campus. To build that campus, I did get a lot of support in Second Life from our local network here, which was Kevin was one of the persons who helped me a lot to build the campus, Rockcliffe University Consortium, and I found him through my other networks because they suggested me to go to him while I wanted to build a campus. So network is another key issue. You have to be part of the network, and that is what we're doing here right now. Like, we are meeting in this consortium, and then we are sharing our experiences to each other, as well as whenever we need, we are helping to each other. Then I was working with other partners, such as Wisdom Seeker, John here. Now we're all doing common projects together. We are working as a team almost for more than a year. We are delivering courses, we are making meetings about them, and so on. So the key point to get the funding or support of your administration is timing and knowing what their strategy is, what they are looking for, what they are dealing with at that time that you're applying for that funding. And if you could fit your Second Life project to this aim of your university or the goals of your university, or you align it with their strategy, then you have much better chances to get the funding in that sense. Another thing I could just advise is maybe look at what are trends around. Like, for example, sustainability is one of the very hot topic all around the world. And as we are integrating sustainability to our courses, to our Second Life projects. We are doing a two-pillar thing, a digital transformation and sustainability together. And then those are the very hot topics and the priorities for many institutions all around the world. If you're going for EU funding or if you're going for funding from the government, those are their priority as well. So your chances to get the funding with a project in these topics will be much higher than on a regular other project. And overall, I would like to thank all our help support from our network as China University in here. We have been working with them very in harmony, let's say, and then it's very fruitful. It has been very fruitful for us, and it's going to be more fruitful in the future, I hope so. So I will be happy to answer any questions in the questions and answers section as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Yes, timing is extremely important. Timing and networking are the two big takeaways I've got from that. Thank you so much. Our next speaker today is Medi Martian, who is Erik Moore. He holds a PhD in cybersecurity and a Master of Fine Arts. He's been teaching cybersecurity in virtual worlds for 10 years. He builds on security operation and data centers, his builds, on security operation and data centers continue to be used by various universities. He's also editor-in-chief of the Journal of the Colloquium for Systems Security Education and a chair of the World Information Security Education Conference. Welcome to our panel, Medi.
Thank you so much. Really happy to be here. I thought, wow, this is so much great advice already. I wish I had this advice when I was starting out in these things. It would have been so helpful. My own experience, I started in the year 2000 in the metaverse, in a system that was there before Second Life. I was working at Jones International University, and it was the first regionally accredited, fully online institution, and they emphasized transnational education, so virtual worlds fit right in, and it was used as part of the graduation. I was the chair of their information technology department at the time, and this was really an institutional push to move to technologies like this. It was started by the cable magnate Jones, and from there, I took that experience to Regis University, and they were really pushing online programs. And so when I suggested that this might be something Regis would do, we actually made a campus. And this was about the year, I can't remember the exact year, but it was just when Second Life was coming out, and we started at the Regis University campus of Second Life, and I can look at my bio here, September 21st, 2008. That's why I created this account, and so a few years after the previous experience, but that went on to, from the campus, we created a security operations center, as I was teaching cybersecurity at the time, and it could have fires and floods, and the students had direct access to laboratory consoles that were virtualized machines also, at that time using Citrix. And so that students could log on to machines inside the virtual world into a virtual compute space and address challenges in that security operations center. At Regis, we also used this for designing real-world facilities. The Denver Tech Center of the Regis campus was actually designed in Second Life first as the model that we gave to the architects for reviewing how we want the facility put together. So I think virtual worlds can do a lot of different things. While all that was running, I also worked with Vincent Nestler to develop a data center to teach physical security. And these builds still exist, and I'll describe that in a bit. But I think it was really the tie-in both at Jones and Regis to their online missions that really made it a viable and easy thing for them to support, not really through grants or external funding, but really through the operations dollars. They said, yes, this is in the same way that they would pay for web services, they wanted to pay for this. So I felt really privileged to be part of those types of organizations, because I know how hard it is really to seek these different types of funding when it's not built into the mission or understood to be a serious component of the academic program, which I also see is often the case. While I was there, I created a lot of collaborations with different organizations, and San Bernardino was one of them, and Idaho State was another, where we put students through exercises, and you can read the research, which is published if you go to my Google Scholar or ResearchGate. You can get that paper on the use of Second Life for teaching physical security. From Regis, I've moved over to Adams 12 5-star schools, and while we don't let students under 18 in Second Life, we do use it with the staff in order to design classrooms of the future. And it's been used to provide advanced modeling and to allow our staff in the facilities, in our architecture group and other places like that, to go in and try models of new classrooms for virtual worlds, because we could leverage these same features of the media really works. You can turn on the computers. You can project things on the screens. So we could see early on what short throw projectors and other technologies could be like to experience for students in the classroom. One security build I designed, so an interesting thing about Adams 12 is that I did have a champion at Adams 12, the Chief Information Officer, was aware of my earlier work at Regis and said, yeah, let's design this, let's build it, and also feel free to share this sim out with other organizations and use it to promote cybersecurity and the enhancement of education. So I made maybe 10 levels in that space and included the old Regis work. After I left Regis, of course, that sim closed. Unfortunately, they didn't have the expertise to maintain it, but Adams 12 allowed it to get reinstantiated there. And so everything I described still exists and is available if you're interested in seeing it. In addition, I continued working with Regis and other institutions to design other security scenarios. Capital Technical University is one of those, and one of the builds we did is called the glass cage scenario. That's where a foreign bureau, like a consulate or an embassy, was designed in an office tower in a financial district. It's an unusual security scenario, but I had to build a city around it. So my wife teaches Japanese at Metropolitan State University, and when the pandemic occurred, I had this foreign city outside of my bureau, and she had a problem, which was teaching her students how to handle street directions. She could no longer take them into downtown Denver's Little Tokyo area and have them work around following how to get around the streets in Japanese. And instead, we designed a Little Tokyo around this glass cage scenario. We turned that generic city into Tokyo. And she would give them assignments, and they would have to go find something. If they came back with the right thing, it meant they did the directions correctly. So it's a different kind of thing, and it led me to the idea that there are hybrid uses, and that universities collaborating on different things where some people have funding and some don't can justify these things. Metro didn't pay anything for the site, and CapTech has never paid either, but that's because I never needed to seek funding, because Adams 12 pays for the sim, and because it's multiple levels, different people can use it. So those are some of the different experiences I've had. I feel like, hearing all the stories over the years, I've had a very lucky and easy path forward here, but part of it really is because I've had champions at the institutions that have paid for this, Regis and Adams 12, and that's allowed me to really share a lot of these things and do joint builds with a bunch of really creative and interesting people from other institutions as we work together. So That's a little bit about my story, but cybersecurity has been a big part of it as I introduce those scenarios in a variety of different ways. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Medi. I love how you guys set up that Tokyo simulation. It's amazing all the different things that we can do in virtual worlds if you know, we set our minds to it that are pretty much impossible in other circumstances. And I think that's a huge selling point. So today we actually do have one more speaker, and unfortunately she is in Puerto Rico and she is having repeated power outages, and it has happened again today. So I'm going to go ahead and share the introduction, and she has sent us what she was going to say during her portion of the panel today. So I'm just going to post that in chat and read it to you. So our fifth person today is P. Illios, who is Rossana Barrios-Llorens, and she has a bachelor's degree in natural sciences from the University of Puerto Rico and a master's degree and postmaster certificate in academic and specialized libraries from the Graduate School of Sciences and Information Technologies. For 15 years, she's been working on the Conrado F. Asenio Library of the Medical Sciences campus at the University of Puerto Rico. She's head of the reference department, working information competency and technology workshops, and is admin and content creator for the library's website. I do have her statements here, so I'm going to go ahead and paste those in one at a time and share them with you. So P started her presentation by saying, "In my case, I'm still in diapers. The network of the National Library of Medicine Region 2, where the southeastern states of the United States belong, has some funds designated to the poorer states. It is called the Membership Catalyst Award. In this case, Puerto Rico and Mississippi." Just to clarify to those who do not know about Puerto Rico, we are a territory of the United States and American citizens. In that sense, among others, we serve in the United States military divisions and can apply to federal awards and grants. As soon as I learned about the funds, I spoke with the director of my library about a consumer health information project, and he gave me the go-ahead. I must say that I am blessed by my director, Professor Charles Segui, who understands the possibilities of the metaverse and allows me to join my Fireside chat with Meryl McBride every Wednesday at 7 a.m., among other projects. We had a meeting with the network of the National Library of Medicine Region 2 Executive Director and other members of the staff and presented to them the Consumer Health Information Literacy Project for Latinos and Hispanic Americans in Second Life. I named the proposal Latino and Hispanic Americans Consumer Health Information in the Metaverse. Everything will be addressed in Spanish. Guess what? They love it. Oops, that didn't post. Here we go. Guess what? They loved it. The word metaverse is sexy, and they immediately were interested. I showed the snapshots and explained the EduRegion initiative with the Virtual World Consortium. They liked the concept, considered it pertinent, and I was awarded with the funds. I am in the process of filling out every document they want me to produce. I think I will be able to begin in the last weeks of November. That's very exciting. In my campus, the National Library of Medicine plays a big role and respect. The origin of the funds make it easier for them to believe in me. The project aligns and will support the mission of NNLM because it engages traditionally underrepresented populations and/or involves medically underserved areas. These are topics that everyone who knows me understands. They are areas close to my heart. I think that meeting the objective and the purpose of the organization we are looking for funds to is the key to presenting the idea. And that's a point that our other panelists have made as well. So thank you to P. I'm so sorry she couldn't be here, but these are really good comments. Okay, so that is all of our panelists. First of all, thank you so much for your presentations. I'd like to go ahead and take a few minutes to open up for questions. And you can feel free to put those in chat, or you can speak them in voice if you'd like to.
I see the question about what courses was I teaching. So Introduction to Cybersecurity is a course where physical security is a common thing to come up. So that would be one course. The one other course I didn't mention is I taught a course for Takeover Heights University that was I designed called Digital Media Revolution. And that included a lot of different kinds of social media courses, but the students had to go in, and in that course I didn't use any particular sim, but I designed a series of tours through Second Life itself where students had to address social issues and technology and kind of art discoveries inside Second Life. So a very different kind of course there. The one at Capital Technical University is a cybersecurity course also, and that one deals directly with becoming a physical security auditor and how do you secure facilities. It's easy to talk about. One of the specialized things about that course is that teaching physical security auditing is a spatial recognition thing. You can't show videos because your camera is pointing at the problem. You can't have a written scenario because you're literally describing the problem. Students need to pick out spatially that a sprinkler should not be over a server, that a payphone should not be next to a high security entry door, things like that.
Thank you, Medi. I have a question from Wisdom Seeker. Have your students who took courses here in Second Life been helpful in getting more university support for you? Oh, that's a great question. And I'll just open it up to any of you.
I might address that one, Brayla. I haven't found that to be the case in Second Life, but we did a master's program last year using the Oculus and an application called Spatial. And one of the students who graduated from that program is now working with us in a research capacity. She got a job quite quickly in her local education development region in the county. And we're now developing some research projects with her. So it does kind of depend.
Can you hear me? I understand I had a voice problem before.
You're clear right now.
Okay, I'll talk fast. Students are difficult to discern. I found that you have to be comfortable in your own skin before you're willing to take on the skin of an avatar. And you have to, that means you often are a little bit older, but it also means that college kids are not always very enthusiastic about the life of an avatar because of what I just said. And most college students associate avatar with some sort of gaming exercise. And so they don't really, ones I've been in touch with, really don't know what to do with a Second Life experience. I can say that at my university, had one instructor who taught genetics, and the students really loved it. He taught genetics in SL. In fact, he's still a very prominent member of the biology community in SL. And I have a suspicion that they would endorse the use of SL for that purpose. So in response, it's a very good question, actually. In response to your question, students are a very mixed bag in their enthusiasm for social virtual worlds.
And Magua, what business courses were you teaching on Second Life?
The first course that I taught was not only about business, but it's more like to show the virtual world. So it was, the name of the course was the virtual worlds at all, and then it was about virtual worlds, to showing them that these worlds exist, and the students were just were very new here and were exploring here with us. We were visiting some non-profit organizations, how they do things here, how what they are doing here, and how they're operating here. And also we were having some guests. For example, we had one guy, a Turkish guy actually. He's building boats here, and he was an engineer, and he quit his job, and he's just building boats and selling boats here in Second Life. Now even he's, I think, doing more, like he's building houses and stores as well and selling those. So we were inviting those kind of people. They were talking to the students and so on. So it was the main. Yes, he was using SL for business, exactly. And after that, we caught another course. We called it Marketing and Sustainability. Half of this course was more like a theory teaching about sustainability and how marketing is related to sustainability, and the other half was coming to here and doing this project about sustainability. They were doing presentations. Some of the crowd here, they were our audience at some point in those courses, and we are still doing that. The second half of the course is in Second Life, and we are creating 3D immersive stages for audience, and the students are making a presentation about sustainability to the audience. So far, those are the courses, and we are also doing the course with, for example, John's course and my course. We kind of integrated those courses to each other, and then now we have a hybrid course. It is really good in many sense, because we have intercultural interaction. We got Irish students, we got Turkish students. Sometimes we got even more nationalities in the groups. We got Erasmus students visiting us. Like this year, for example, we got a Spanish. Last year we got someone from Uganda, and so on. So like, it's a mixture of nationalities here, and that is very fruitful, in my opinion. Yes, even from John's group, there are Chinese, African, and Eastern Europeans are coming as well.
That is awesome. I think that is like probably the best thing about Second Life, is that it doesn't matter where you are. You can be here and be present with us. I think that is amazing.
Exactly.
So Ellie has a comment. I appreciate the inclusion of IT with John's comments. I feel that is something we often forget to note. And in fact, a question that I was thinking about is maybe telling us a little bit about some of the foibles that you have experienced or roadblocks you've encountered. For me as a high school teacher, we just never had the technology available to bring in, I had 120 students in my class, and there's no way that we could have that kind of technology to support Second Life for us. So what kind of things did you run into?
I think that the first thing to say is that most of us are not that technically literate when it comes to how networks operate and how all those communication protocols happen. And I quite naively at the beginning thought if I can use Second Life at home, I'm sure I can use it on campus. And I certainly wasn't aware of all the security protocols that were in place. And naturally enough, as we hear more and more about cybersecurity, those protocols have become stricter and stricter. And the problem is that the IT section of the university has a responsibility to keep everybody safe. And when we come in with our requests to release ports and open up access that's off the normal routine, they're very wary and very careful. And that's why you do need to have some formal recognition of what you're doing if you want to do it on campus, and if you want your students to be able to access it on campus. What I was going to say is that one of the things I think we can usefully do here in the Eduverse space is start working on some FAQs aimed specifically at IT people and aimed at administrators, so that when academics who are interested in becoming involved need to have those conversations, they've got some resource that they can fall back on. And I think from our own experience, but also technical support from Linden Lab, I think that would be a really important resource that we could provide here in Eduverse space.
Well, I really agree with that, John. I feel like one of the most gratifying things about my job, I'm the executive director of academic computing, so I'm in the role of the person who usually denies all those kinds of requests. But the great thing in my role is that I can be the advocate, and I can actually get those approvals through. And I know not everybody can really do that. So what you're saying is so helpful. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, those of us who can facilitate should. And I was fortunate when I started my module, I was a head of school, which is a senior position within the organisation. So, people listened to me when I asked for help. As I went on and became a dean, that became much more important in terms of facilitating people. And I think it's very important when you're in that gatekeeper role to use it wisely. And by that I mean you need to acknowledge the important roles that other people have in keeping us all safe, keeping us secure, and keeping everything working smoothly. There's nothing more frustrating to somebody in IT than a cavalier academic who's really only interested in doing their own thing and doesn't really care about what happens outside and doesn't respect why regulation is in place. Equally, there's nothing more frustrating to an enthusiastic academic than a dogmatic IT gatekeeper who just will not listen and refuses even to engage. So an awful lot of it is about good communication. But respect for each other's roles and making an effort to understand why things aren't working can often be very, very important in unblocking blockages.
So true.
So be nice to the IT people. Maybe bring donuts. Okay, we still have we have a couple minutes if anyone would like to type or put in voice a question for our panel. Thank you for the popcorn, the IT popcorn. So Ellie has a question. Many of you are upper administration. Who do you suggest that new instructors trying to teach in virtual worlds talk to?
Talk to
You
the...
need to talk.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mark. Go ahead. No, you go first.
Okay, talk to one of the upper administration. I mean, you need to have a support from one person. Like, for example, I'm the deputy dean at the faculty, and I'm working with my dean very closely for years, and he is supporting this digital transformation. Even his age is not very young at the moment, but then he really supports this, and then he wants us to integrate all those digital tools to our education at the faculty. So you need someone like him project probably, and try to get someone on your back from the upper administration, I would suggest.
Yeah, I was going to say the first person that you need to have a conversation with and get support from is whoever you report into in terms of your academic role. So, if it's a subject matter expert, a subject matter leader, or a head of department, excuse me, head of school, or whoever, makes the academic decisions, because their approval is eventually going to be needed. The IT people and the admin people are going to come back to the local manager or academic leader and ensure that everything is okay. The second the second group of people you need to talk to are your IT technician, your local IT technician on the ground. And if you can get support from that person, then that can be very helpful going up the line when the question comes up in the IT section and you're not there to speak for yourself. Because then your IT friend can actually at a meeting say, oh yeah, I know, John is doing that module, he was talking to me about it, it sounds really interesting, we should really help that and support it. But the other thing I mentioned in my talk, the final thing I'd say, is if you can get formal recognition for what you're doing, so put in for a local award of some sort. There are always calls in universities for new and innovative projects to be done. If you can get that kind of support, then that opens a lot of doors because now you've got recognition at a university level that what you're doing is a legitimate project, it's a pilot or whatever, and that should be supported.
I think those are both great advice. And, also, I'd say tapping into this team right here and being able to use this team to portray, to take people on a tour, to demonstrate education value. There's a lot of talent and expertise in this room right here.
Did you want to add something, Meryl?
Well, I was just going to say, I endorse what John said. I'm an administrative position at Colorado State, and it's hard to get anything related to SL accomplished. And so I sort of made friends with the college technical chief, and we talked about a variety of avatar-driven activities on the computer. And a Second Life installation on my desktop computer at work. But otherwise, I mean, there's some sort of huge act of Congress to get SL put on an office computer. Conversation, everything seems to be working fine. And just be honest, because he sort of thinks it's interesting. And so John's right about this type of connectivity. This is extremely important. At New Orleans, same type of conversations with not only the technical people from the university, but the computer science department, and they were very supportive.
Thank you. I'll add Dex's comment, and then we're going to go ahead and close this out since it is the top of the hour. Dex states, just a comment to the IT issues. Accessing SL on various conferences where we can't rely on university internet connection due to mentioned blockages, you can actually go with a mobile modem connection if this is necessary. This may cost more on a phone bill, but it is a way out of problematic solutions. Absolutely. I go through that in my professional life as well. So it is the top of the hour, and so on behalf of VWEC and our expert panel, I'd like to thank everyone for attending and for all your insights today. I want to give you a couple quick announcements. If you look behind me, there is a sign for the Fireside Chat coming up on November 2nd. And that is Wednesday at 9 a.m. That's going to be with Midori Linden, and those are always really, really helpful, really good. She has been a a terrific supporter of education here in SL, and I encourage you all to be here. Also coming up in a couple of weeks, our next expert series presentation will be November 11th at the same time with Leah Lobo, who'll be sharing her 18 years of teaching in the metaverse. So that sign is available on the other side of the stage, and you can click that to get more information. Don't miss that one. Also, just a reminder, you can find all scheduled events on the VWEC event Plaza calendar, and there's one in World and one at the place where I am going to copy paste right now. Also, the VWEC YouTube channel is available, and I'm putting that in local chat as well. And finally, if you're interested in presenting in the expert series or here in the Plaza, we have a form we'd love for you to fill out, and I am linking that as well. Okay, and so now thank you everybody, and I'd like to invite you to our patio area just behind us, and we can enjoy a little happy hour where we can continue conversations and have a few Halloween treats. So thank you everybody.